everyone. Yeah. Welcome to the first stream of 2023. This is going to be a good year. You want to know why? Because we're going to make it a good year. We've had not so great years. This year's it. We're going to make it good.
New hair.
Yeah. So excited.
Unicorn hair. How can you not start off a great year with new hair?
Exactly. It's kind of a purpley blue color, but I'm liking it. We have so many people here from the community you're all familiar with. Ashley, of course. Speaking of CES, Ashley teamed up with a bunch of our community members, and they did a video using Omniverse collaborative. So if you haven't seen that, you need to make sure you jump on. I'm sure we have it linked on our YouTube. Yeah, okay. And watch that video. It's sweet. It's also really funny. They stole Jensen's balloon, so
this was the big top secret project that Edmar kept getting in trouble for every time he would have a stream.
It's true. It was definitely the dream team. So Tyner was also very helpful in the process, but Ashley was one of the creators, Edward McEvanu, Pekka Varis, Jay Salina, aka JS Films, Sheng Yu, who did that awesome machinima, the sci-fi. Rafi Animates was one of the Jeremy Lightcap. I mean, the team was amazing, and they actually worked together, taking their different skills and backgrounds and apps that they use and made something together, leveraging the power of USD and Omniverse to be able to do that. So it's really inspiring. So we'll post the link in the Twitch chat and the YouTube chat in a second. But yeah, so that was definitely a great highlight for the team at CES, and really happy with how everybody has received that work. So we thought today would be a really great opportunity to kind of help all the new users that might be just coming onto the platform, or maybe even old users that didn't know about some of the resources that are currently available. I'm always surprised when I hear that people didn't know we had a Learn tab in the launcher. So we're going to go over all that stuff. But I think to really get started as kind of laying the groundwork for what Omniverse is, let's start by just introducing Omniverse to everybody, for those who may not have heard of it. So Omniverse is basically the platform that developers and creators can use to build their applications for the metaverse. We're leveraging the power of USD to enable the great sharing of apps from a huge ecosystem to be able to work together in real time or asynchronously. And we'll get into that in a second. But it is a very big and kind of overwhelming kind of platform when you look at it from above, right? Because it's all encompassing. So we'll try to demystify that and take it down to its basics and all of its parts. And like Wendy just said, we have some great guests here who are going to help us with some of these answers. So let's start with actually Vince. So Vince, I just mentioned Omniverse as a platform for building metaverse applications and also USD. Is that a good place for us to start to kind of explore what Omniverse is?
Absolutely. At its core, it's built on USD, and USD is Universal Scene Description. It's a file format. It's more than a file format. It's really a structure, and it was created by Pixar originally, and it was built to do collaboration, right? When you make a big Pixar movie, you have all these people working together, and someone's making a character, someone's making a coral reef, and one's making a fish or something that to animate. And then you have animators and you have modelers, you have all this complexity that goes into it. And so instead of just being a file format that's a pile of data that you just have to shove down a pipe, it gives you a lot more flexibility. It's built to have things like versioning and layers and hierarchies that allows you to kind of have one person make something blue, put another layer on top and make it red, things you would do in normal reviews of scenes and modifications. So it's got this great structure at the middle of it that just lends itself perfectly to collaboration. But the other thing that's amazing about it is that each one of those little deltas, those things, those changes you make can be individually streamed. You don't have to give someone, here's the version of the car with, the roof opened and the red paint. Here's a version of the car with the blue paint. You can just have that delta, that little change. Mm-hmm. So a very different thing from a standard file format, which is just a bunch of data in a zip file, and that really is critical. So it's important to learn about USD and to know about these great functions, because it's critical to use it properly, to be able to really leverage the most out of collaboration and versioning and all these things. And so that's been one of the stumbling blocks, right? A lot of people come to Omniverse and they're like, oh yeah, I'll just make a file and I'll send it over here. But once you start doing collaboration, you really need to start organizing your files better. You need to, and that's not just true for Omniverse. That's true for working in a film studio. That's true for working with others in production, right? USD is just a great way of managing all of that. And so it's really good to learn about USD first. We have an awesome DLI training that kind of goes through the basics of Omniverse, and we'll point you guys to that. There's DLI is our Deep Learning Institute, where you go learn about a lot of things that are AI based, but also we were starting to put some cool trainings there. So, and we also have some cool live streams. Dave Tyner's done a ton of live streams with a few people on kind of how do we organize these scenes, how do we work and collaborate together, and we're going to be putting together even more content. And then Maddie's actually on our community team is our expert on USD. He's been curating the usd.nvidia.com portal and putting new samples and working on tutorials and in his live streams also helping tons of people with USD. Because essentially, when you're developing tools for Omniverse, you're doing things that are poking at USDs. You're modifying things in those USD files and formats. So a developer really needs to understand it, and an artist really benefits from understanding how it works to better work with others. So there's this USD at the middle. So we really kind of first step, learn a bit about USD, but that's maybe not as interesting as looking at the app and ray tracing cool stuff. So we can go to that part next. So these USDs have these great functions for sharing things and collaborating, but you still need something to hold that file and open those channels and kind of transfer that data, and that's called Nucleus. So Nucleus is a part of Omniverse that you can install, and it's a server. It's just like you would do a Google Drive or a file server, just it's files on disk, but it opens ports to apps and it connects to different applications. And that's really your hub. That's where all the files go. That's where applications can share things through. And that's also what gives us that live connectivity. So if you do use that live sync, it's the communication manager between all of those different applications. So Nucleus is something that you'll definitely want to install on your system as well, to start playing with. And you'll want to start putting your files into Nucleus and connecting to those files with your different applications. And so we've got USD files. They're inside of a Nucleus server. There's kind of 3 versions of a Nucleus server today. And so that's another thing that has stumped a few of our users. Like, do I need to buy this enterprise thing, or what can I do with the free one? Do I have to purchase this thing? And so there's a free version of Omniverse, which is the workstation Nucleus and the apps and the kit, which is the development kit to build your own apps. Everything. All of the things we make for Omniverse are there in the free version. And the Nucleus server that's on the free one is the workstation Nucleus. And so this is one that you can install on your own machine. I have one on my workstation. And you can use it to collaborate with yourself. So you can use that to collaborate, to have Max connected to Maya, to Unreal, to Substance, and do live sync with yourself between apps. And you can actually have 2 simultaneous users. So even if there's someone else in the house that I can work with, like you can see this other workstation here, I can connect this one also to my same Nucleus. I can have 2 people working live on the same Nucleus. And so the free version of Nucleus is absolutely able to do all those cool things that Omniverse does, but you're limited to 2 users. And that's where the enterprise Nucleus comes in. So the enterprise Nucleus, and why the main reason you would buy the enterprise Omniverse, to get support on all your applications, as well as this Nucleus. The enterprise Nucleus has user control and multiple users, and it's a much more robust version of it that you would install in a studio or in a larger organization. And that would allow you to have dozens of people collaborating on those scenes together. And you might have multiple Nucleus servers. You might have one per project. You might have one for assets that you use in your facility. Your architecture firm, you might have a Nucleus server where you catalog all of your cool assets using deep search. We have a lot of cool functionality on Nucleus as well.
And I share the reason that I think that someone should use Nucleus, even if they're by themselves.
Go for it.
Is because every time you save that USD file on a Nucleus server, it keeps the checkpoint for you. And so you can, if you screw something up, you can go back in time and go back to before you messed it up. And that has saved me a couple times for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really powerful feature actually. And I saw also you can, if you can take a version of a file in, and you can even select which one of those snapshots you're using. There's some really neat stuff you can do with those versions.
Cool.
So I think that's a really good overview of kind of like how the structure of Omniverse is and how you can leverage USD. We can go into probably many live streams specifically about USD. And Wendy has posted a link to a DLI course on USD to have a basic understanding of it. As Vince mentioned, it's also covered on other live streams. Let's take a quick step back, okay? So if Omniverse is something that would help you in your work, what is the first step to kind of saying, do I have the hardware to be able to run it? Like, what are the requirements? We have a great URL. It's super easy to remember. It says omniverse.nvidia.com, and that will bring you to the main Omniverse page. And there you can look at some of the requirements. But we also have a nice kind of page that breaks down the different hardware requirements and operating system requirements per app. So I think, so generally, I think that on a lot of those apps, the minimum is an RTX card, but also having I think 2070 as listed as kind of the lower end. But I think it'd be really helpful to kind of explain, because this often comes up in the community, like, okay, what kind of card do I really need to make the most out of Omniverse? And I thought it'd be good to spend just a couple minutes on that, because obviously if you have a lower card, you can use it. But what are the advantages of having a higher powered card?
Yeah, so the minimum requirement is RTX, and that's because the RTX renderer that's built in needs it. It uses the RT cores, right? So anything that's branded RTX at NVIDIA is because the chip itself has RT cores. It has physical BVH traversal accelerators, these like RT cores that basically allows it to ray trace quicker. So there's a mechanical part. There's an actual thing on the chip that makes it an RTX. And that's something we're leveraging, and that's something that makes that ray tracing at high speed possible. So RTX is the minimum. And the second thing is the memory. And that's kind of where you'll see 4070 or 2070 or whatever the numbers as a minimum, is because the memory on the GPU really determines the size of a scene you can load. And so if it's too small, you won't be able to load a large file. And so the minimum depends a little bit on what you're working on. If you're working on a small asset, you make, I don't know, vases or cell phone cases, you might not need 48 gigs of GPU memory to work with that, right? But if you're doing a digital twin of a BMW factory, you might need 300 gigs of memory on your GPU, right? So there's the scalability of that is really depends on what you're doing. So there's a speed aspect to the rendering that from generation to generation will happen, from a 20 series to a 30 series to a 40 series. It's been almost 2x, and even from 30 series to 40 series to Ada, we've seen up to 4x and even more in performance because of the new generation RT core and the new generation AI and things like DLSS3 that allows us to make up missing frames in the viewport, which is on the Ada generation. So there's real technology in there. It's not just because it's a little bit faster from year to year. There's generational leaps in the RT cores. So the speed of the rendering will depend on kind of that generation and how many CUDA cores it has, how high it is, and the amount of memory is going to be how big a scene you can work with. So really, the minimum requirement depends on what you're doing. If you're making super intricate glass vases that have incredible refraction and reflection, you might need a more powerful GPU. If you're making plastic phone cases, you might not, right? So it's always hard to pick a minimum. It sort of depends on what you're doing, but at least with those two things, like the amount of memory of the card is how big of content you can work on, and the higher the amount of CUDA cores and RT cores, the faster it'll render. And then you can throw multiple GPUs at it as well. So I've got a 4090 and two 3090s in this guy right here, which only Omniverse really makes use of, but it's amazingly fast with Omniverse.
Okay,
Can
so
I just say that? Can I just say that I've used a A3000, which is like a 3060, and I could do really a lot with at that level. I've used a 3070, I've used a 3080, and I've used dual 3090s, and they all worked great. But clearly, the more GPU you have, it just speeds things up. But that 3060 was great. I was really, because if you have the RT cores, then you can do the real time ray tracing. That's which is killer.
That's totally true. You're getting to that first step of magic, even just with an RTX card, right?
Even RTX card, yeah.
So fast that even with just one or two passes of ray tracing, you know what it looks like. You're getting that feedback. You don't need every little 15th reflection of the glass on glass on glass, which you get in seconds with this, but you don't need that for informing your design, right? It also, as if you're doing engineering, your bar might be here. If you're doing film rendering, maybe your bar is there for quality, and you need those 8,000 passes to make sure that the glint is on the right part of the eyeball, things like that.
It's important to note too that you can control how much GPU is being used through the workflow. So using things like payloads, and when you toggle off, we're getting in the weeds a little bit, but we have references of payloads. When you toggle off a payload, it offloads from GPU memory. And so you can hide payloads. You can have a big scene, you hide the payloads that are consuming memory, and then you can open that scene. It's not often that you need to see everything at the same time. And so you can use payloads and layers, and just through the workflow, you can dice up your stage such that you don't have to be opening the giant scene every time.
Another great example of the power of USD, right? USD has this flexibility of payloads where I can, if I'm on my 4090, I can load the whole thing. I go on a laptop and I've got a 2080 in it. I can still load the file. I just load it as payloads, and I don't load every single item. And then you can go in and decide which ones you want to load up. It's a really cool functionality built in USD and Omniverse in general. Yeah.
I'm going to even comment that I had a 1660 Super in my computer before, 4090, and I was able to open Omniverse. I couldn't see the viewport, only if it was like in Pixar Storm, but I was able to develop a UI for an extension just using a 1660 Super. It ran like garbage, but it opened.
Yeah. So that's a good point too. What you're doing, if you're running code, Omniverse code, you can actually switch off of the RTX renderer and go to the Pixar Storm render, which doesn't do ray tracing, doesn't require it, and so you can still have a viewport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're adding a compatibility mode for folks without RTX for that purpose. We know there are people that want to develop or want to play, but don't have the RTX, and so you can use a limited set of features, but still be able to join in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I pasted the link for the requirements page. You can see depending on what app you're interested in using. So Vince, what would be the first step if so? We've compelled people to check out Omniverse, and what is Omniverse in terms of the program? You have to put a launcher on there, right?
Yeah. So what is Omniverse? I could ask all of these beautiful people here, and everyone has a different answer for what Omniverse is, right? So and that's why we have all these live streams, all these different things. But one of the kind of most common use cases for our community, obviously, it's a development platform. We have people building tools on it, full apps, or building extensions to it, and that's a lot of the stuff that Maddie and Ashley's helping support. But there's also creators out there that just want to use our tools. They want to use our PhysX tool to make a car go drive around, or they want to use our renderer to dial in their lights and things more quickly or more efficiently. Or their engineers. So it really starts with downloading. Just get the free version of Omniverse to start. Right, download the launcher. And then the launcher, you install this, and it's kind of common these days, kind of like on Steam. You have a Steam launcher, and then you install your games from there, or even the Adobe Creative Suite. You have kind of a launcher, and then you install your apps from there, and you have notifications when there's updates, and so similar thing. So you would install that launcher on your machine. One of the features from the enterprise version is that we do have an offline version of that launcher. So if you're in an enterprise and the systems are not connected, you want to be able to disseminate these apps and spread them within your company. There's a delivery mechanism in enterprise. So there's yet another enterprise feature. So you would install this launcher, and I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's see it in action.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So you can grab the launcher while Vince is bringing that up. You can grab the launcher from that omniverse.nvidia.com link. Check out to make sure you meet the requirements. If you do, you can install the launcher. Very, very easy installation process. And then the launcher, which is constantly being updated and improved. We always want people's feedback, but that's kind of where you can get to most everything. And Vince is sharing right now, I think.
Yep. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the launcher. It starts as kind of a smaller window. You can make it bigger if you have a larger screen, larger resolution. And it starts on the news tab. So in this news tab, we have these three kind of banner ads at the top. And that's a good way to know what's going on. So, how to get started, new updates that are available. We have Avatar Cloud Engine. That's our ACE advertisement here. So you can click on these. So you'll have kind of newer blogs or whatever. Whenever we do a contest, you'll see a banner up here. So there's these kind of three banners. Everything else you see here, what we're doing is we're aggregating all of the blog posts that we're doing on the NVIDIA corporate blogs and on the developer blogs. So this gives you kind of a one-stop shop to get all of the news around Omniverse. And we created Omniverse for ourselves initially. We built NVIDIA Drive, which is our autonomous vehicle platform on it. We also built Isaac Sim. So you're going to see a lot of these articles might be on Drive or on Isaac Sim because they're all built on Omniverse. We were using game engines. We hit the limitations of those engines, and we ended up having to create our own platform. So Omniverse was built to be cloud native first, and that's a great place to leverage multiple GPUs. We were just talking about the minimum. What's the maximum? Well, the maximum is lots and lots of GPUs in the cloud being thrown at it, which is what we need to do for autonomous vehicle, right? With NVIDIA Drive, we're putting a car computer in a box and we're connecting Omniverse to all of its inputs. And so we build the matrix, we build a virtual world where we can feed it camera feeds and LiDAR feeds and all of that. And we need to throw a lot of GPUs at creating all those data feeds. So you'll have all this news in the news tab, which is super great. And if you click on them, it'll take you to our different blog locations. And then we have our Exchange. I'll go to the Exchange first. This is kind of our store. This is where you go and get apps. So we did mention Nucleus. Maybe we'll start with Nucleus, actually. So if you click on the Nucleus tab, this is where you would go and install it. So I have it installed, which is why I can see this kind of browser area here. Before you install it, you don't have this browser area. And right here in the little this little plus sign, you have an install button. So you can go ahead and install Nucleus. And so this little bell means that I'm actually behind. There's an update. I could click on this and go ahead and update it. So just like you have in other application managers. So I would go ahead and install Nucleus first. And this will put it onto your system. And then you'll have this local host. So I now have a local Nucleus server. And you can see here that I'm actually have connections to other Nucleus servers as well. And so localhost, this is my own local one on my machine. But we have some other server ones here. And so there's one for different teams. And I'm disconnected right now. I'm not on VPN, so I don't have access to them. But really, you can think of these as Google Drives. I might have things coming from the art team's Google Nucleus server. I might have other stuff from another vendor's server. I might be getting a seat model for a car from the car vendor's Nucleus server, and I might be getting. So you can start amassing things from different locations. And one of the really important folders you'll see is this NVIDIA folder with the lock. This is actually a read-only folder of the cool stuff that, demos and samples and assets that we provide for free. And so you'll be able to go in here in samples and load some of these scenes up. And you'll see this in your asset browser inside the apps.
And so terminology, we often refer to that as mount, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the little, why it's read-only is because it's not actually on my machine. It's connecting to an Amazon server bucket somewhere. And so that way, anytime we do an update to those files, you're all automatically getting them the next time you go and read that file as well. And we have vendors using this too. The Twin Brew materials, when you go into the applications, you'll see a Twin Brew makes fabric materials. And so when you go and pick materials from the Twin Brew library, you're actually connecting to their S3 bucket and getting their materials out of it. And so it's really neat. We've even been able to connect to Sketchfab and TurboSquid and other like 3D asset vendors too. It's pretty neat. So first you want to install your Nucleus, and then you can go into the Exchange and you'll want to install some apps. So we mentioned before, there's USD files. They're inside of Nucleus. You can have your local Nucleus, or you could have an enterprise Nucleus. There's also a notion of a cloud Nucleus, which is in early beta right now, but that's another alternative. So maybe you'll use your local Nucleus at home, and then when you want to collaborate with other people internationally, you would boot up a cloud Nucleus, just like you would do a Dropbox or kind of a Google Share Drive, and then you would all connect to that cloud Nucleus. So what do you do once you have this Nucleus? Well, there's two things. You want to get connectors. So if you go into connectors here, you'll see all of these connectors. These are the plugins for the DCC tools. So if you're using PTC Creo or Max or Maya or iClone or Eon, Actor Core, there's all sorts of great apps out there. The Reallusion apps all support it, and CAD. There's a lot of CAD packages as well. So you can go in here and Substance 3D, huge one. You can install these connectors. So the connector installs in the third-party app. So it's a plugin that goes into Max, into Maya, that basically adds USD and Nucleus connection to it, so that they can now participate in this collaborative Nucleus connected environment. And then we also make our own apps. So this would allow you to connect Max to Maya, to Unreal. We have Unity coming soon. So these connect everyone together so that you can now collaborate with all those apps. And then we make our own apps as well. So if you go in apps, our most popular, or kind of most full-featured, is Create. So this is a good place to start. So if you're a Max user, Maya user, any of these other DCC tools, if you're a Blender user, actually you'll want to go and install our Blender. We have our own branch of Blender. So instead of making a connector for Blender, we actually have a full build of Blender. Because it's open source, we were able to go deeper into connecting it and make a full version of Blender with all the goodies, all the connections built right in. So you can install our Blender, and or the Blender that's available here. And then Create is probably the most popular. It's the kind of more full-featured, load in a scene. You can apply materials, do lighting, render, use physics, rig things. There's tons of things you can do with Create. Vue is kind of a client review tool, so it's sort of a simpler version of Create. It's really if you're just exploring something and doing markups. So you could do markups on things. You can add waypoints. It's a really great way to guide a customer through a scene without having to learn a GUI and learn kind of a full application.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If I decide to use one app, say Machinima or Audio to Face, I want to animate a face.
Yeah.
Am I stuck there? Is my data stuck in Audio to Face, or
Good question. So because we're using USD and Nucleus at the center, you're not. So all of these apps are basically things that poke at USDs. And so the USD file that's in your Nucleus is what you're working on. So I can load up Audio to Face and put some animation on a character. Audio to Face allows me to talk into a microphone and have my character's mouth move. And then I could use Create and load that same file up, and my character is now talking. So all of these apps are built on the same core, which is called Kit. And so Omniverse Kit is in here. If you go and scrub through, you'll be able to install it as well. So Kit is kind of this kind of core of an app and then all of these apps are basically Kit, which is the core nugget of being able to load things pretty much and interact with USD, and extensions. And so what we did is we made extensions out of a lot of our technologies. PhysX is an extension, and our ray tracer is an extension, and the audio to face is an extension, and all of these extensions basically turn into an application. So an app, when you're launching Create, you're launching Kit and a bunch of tools and extensions basically that we've packaged with a GUI that makes it Create. And when you're launching audio to face, it's the same Kit. It might be some different set of extensions and a different GUI. So everything's modular. And so by everything being built on the same Kit version and everything being modularly built on top of it, it means that you can take any of these different apps to poke at your USD and affect it. And that's what's really, really, really cool. So all of these apps are built for you. They're samples. You can open up the script that makes up Create and see how it's built. And you can they're really samples of how you would build apps. And that's really what we built Omniverse to be. We built Omniverse to be a development platform. So at the first and foremost, it's Kit and extensions, and then we want you guys, we want the community to build new extensions, to build new GUIs, to build new apps. And that's a really interesting one, is Heavy AI. Heavy AI, we did a great live stream with them. You might want to go watch that. They built tools for figuring out where do you put cell towers to get 5G coverage in a neighborhood. So they didn't need everything from Create or View or Audio to Face. They took Kit, they built a few new extensions. They just needed to be able to load a landscape and put towers and have the towers do the proper coverage that they actually do, and ray trace to make sure that that coverage wouldn't be stuck, in trees or bouncing off buildings. And they made their own GUI on top of it. So it's a really interesting live stream to go watch, because you'll see how someone took our technology and just kind of made their own app out of it.
Yeah, so this app list that you're showing us is going to grow exponentially over time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we're going to go into this in a little while later in the stream, but there are many resources for developers there to learn how to actually create extensions and apps, and we'll go through some of that. But this is kind of where you can see what's currently available.
That's right.
And what we hear from a lot of people who are just getting started, like Vince said, Create is a great app to just kind of fool around with. You can look at some of the content that's included already with Omniverse for free if you want to start fooling around with some existing assets. And then what some artists are doing is they're using it just to take advantage of its rendering. And the feedback we hear pretty consistently from people who are using it for commercial work is that it's game changing for their previs work. Because they can turn around a really beautiful looking near final quality renders very quickly during the iteration process when they're working with their customer, and be able to make tweaks and changes nearly in real time. So really drastically reducing the time it takes them to turn around their product. So a lot of creators using Create specifically for that.
Yeah, and in most cases, I think what you'd be doing is you'd be launching your DCC tool of choice, whether it's Blender, Max, Maya, whatever. And on one screen or on a split screen, and have Create next to it. And you might live link or you might not live link, right? It depends on what you're doing. But you could be modeling something here while you're seeing it fully ray traced and rendered in Omniverse. You might also use them one at a time. Maybe you'll go model something, or bring in, for instance, we got the cool Sierra buggy car from our friends at Sierra Cars. We'll be providing this asset pack to everyone very soon, but we have this dune buggy that they made in SolidWorks. So you might just import it into Create, and then from there you want to make a marketing asset. You'll apply materials to it. You'll add lighting. You might rig it so that you can drive it around, and then your final product might go back to some other app to ray trace in V-Ray, right? So it's part of an ecosystem pipeline. It really, having this connectivity through the Nucleus means that you can now use any tool of any application kind of at any point. I can go and use Max to do some box modeling, and then go to Maya to rig and animate it, and then go to Audio to Face to make it talk, and then it doesn't matter anymore, because you've got this universal translator, this kind of USD in the center of it.
Or if you're looking for people to collaborate, artists to collaborate with, it doesn't mean you're locked into finding one artist that uses a specific
app.
tool, but as long as
Yeah.
they can get the task done in whatever tool they're using and it speaks USD, then you can handle the problem that way. So
That's true, and it's probably worth noting too that Omniverse is not meant to replace any of these awesome apps. It's actually meant to just add more power to them, and extend their functionality by letting other people work together who normally would not be able to work together. And so it really just extends the existing kind of workflow that you already have. We have another great live stream with Rafi Animates, who kind of went through his whole workflow and how he's leveraging Omniverse to be able to use all the different tools he's using to make his show Art Squad, which he's doing it all by himself. And the art quality, if you watch that stream and his YouTube channel, Rafi Animates, is just mind-blowing. Really, really fantastic. And he actually leverages his VR to even assemble his scenes and do some light modeling work. And it's, so he goes through all the workflow, and basically what's so compelling about that live stream is the number of apps and tools he's using, and all connecting back to Omniverse to allow them to work together and take their best features combined. So very cool. So I think that's a really cool kind of overview of kind of how to install Omniverse, how to understand what Nucleus is and USD, how to get started with apps. Do we want to move into any other areas on the Exchange page, or want to go right into Learn?
Yeah, I think so. Once you've installed these different apps, you can go into your library, and your library will show what's installed and updates, things like that. So this is where you could go and launch them. There's a few extra tools like Navigator, Nucleus Navigator, which is a way to kind of poke at files that are inside that Nucleus server, a little bit similar to what you get in this Nucleus tab on the app. But yeah, that's kind of, a good way to start. Install the connector to the app that you're using, install Nucleus, install Create, and start playing around with the two. I think that's really a good creative way to start. If you're developing, you'll want to install code, and there's different routes. If you're at CAD engineering, you could just load up Create. There's a great extension in there that's the CAD importer, and that allows you to bring in files from all the different CAD packages, just importing them directly. You don't have to have a connector. You can import files. So there are files like ZBrush that you can output a USD from, and then you can just go and load that USD in Create. So anything that can speak USD, and if it doesn't speak USD, then Create itself and all of our apps have an import that's very powerful. You can bring in all sorts of files, OBJs, or all sorts of files from CAD and into it. So you don't need a connector. The connector just is a more full-featured way of transitioning data from place to place, and some of them add LIDE connectivity, where you have you move a thing and you see it move in the other one. Like Unreal Engine does it, Maya does it, Max does it. A few more all the time are adding that functionality. But I think we're ready to go into Learn.
I was going to suggest before we go into Learn. Actually, I was just thinking, channeling Damien here. He'd probably love if we kind of explained a little bit about the concept of an extension and what the extensions area is, right? Because once you install these base apps that you're working with, or if you're using connectors with other apps, if you want to kind of see what companies and other individuals have done to extend the kind of functionality of Omniverse, you can go into the extensions area.
That's right. So inside of the applications, I'm launching Create here on my side. I hope it's not a secret version. I don't think it is.
Get ready, Wendy.
Uh-oh.
She's quick.
So here's a Create that I just loaded up, and there's an extension manager. So when you go into Windows extensions, and all of these are extensions.
I think you're on the other screen, or I'm seeing your launcher.
Oh, yeah.
Which one's running? Oh, that's weird.
I see the launcher.
Okay, let me change my share your screen.
Oh, well, Vince does that. Maddie, do you want to talk a little bit about what an extension is?
Yeah, so extensions are most similar to what you would call a plugin in other apps. An app comes with some basic functionality, but a lot of them will let other developers add to that application for their custom workflows. We've taken it a step further, and our extensions are building blocks for apps. So an app is built up of lots of extensions. So every extension can add a little bit more functionality to an app. We have the viewport app, the viewport extension, the content extension, the stage. Basically, every window that you see in that Create app that Vince is showing is an extension. And you can reuse the NVIDIA ones in your own applications if you wanted to create your own application.
Very cool. So Vince, we can see your screen now. So thanks for walking us through this.
Yeah, so as I'm loading up these things like the animation graph, right, it just added this new tab. That's the animation graph. So all of these things are extensions. Everything is super hyper modular, right? Everything is very modular. From a toolbar to a viewport, they're all different extensions. So by having this wealth of extensions, it means that community members can make their own extensions as well. So right here, you can see I'm filtering NVIDIA, but if I go to third party, these are all things built by our community. You can see it right there. So you can build your own extensions. You can share them with others. And so you can add more functionality to your tools, to your pipeline. You can share them or not. If you're building custom tools for your own internal pipeline, you don't have to share them. But if you do want to, we have a great process for you to share these. And there's 76 you can see here that are awesome tools shared by our community. And there's 524 extensions in the base, Omniverse Create right now. And so some of these are on. You can see Action Graph is on. There's a little check mark there. Animation Curve Editor is on. Blast is not. So if I click on Blast, this gives us information about it. It tells us what it does. It allows you to break things apart. It's not on by default. I can go and enable it, and then Blast will appear in my GUI. And I can auto-load if it's something that I really love and use it a lot. So for instance, the CAD package, CAD importer. So there's a CAD converter and CAD importer. They're not on by default. I turned them on because I was bringing in files from Solid.
I just learned this today. You want the CAD converter, not the CAD importer. Just
okay.
I learned that yesterday. There you go.
All right. So you want the CAD converter. That's the new one. All right. Perfect. So the CAD converter basically adds a whole bunch of formats to the import. So now when I go into File Import, I'll have all these great formats from different CAD packages as well.
Awesome.
Extensions are extremely powerful. I mean, you can build your own extensions. We have great tutorials on how to do it. Maddie's been building a ton of stuff on it. He's got a weekly live stream on how to build your own things. Ashley, I think you might have done some extensions as well. And it doesn't mean scripting in C++. It means that there might be a little bit of Python scripting, but you could make tools using Action Graph as well, connecting things together and making scripts and functionality that doesn't need to have source code necessarily.
Yeah, and actually, just to put in another explanation on that point, the contest we recently held, the developer contest, several people who entered that contest told us that was their very first time touching Python. Yet they were able to develop an extension and submit it to the contest. So that is just a testament of how easy it is to get started with developing extensions, and even if you have no prior experience with Python. So that's oh wow, that looks beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah, 4090 is very fast.
Well, even with Action Graph, like going back to, you don't need to have programming knowledge. It's all node based, similar to how blueprints work or geometry nodes in Blender. What we're seeing on Vincent's screen right now, that uses Action Graph to make the buttons on the fan work when you press play. So that's all programmed without any code written. The developer did everything in Action Graph. So you can look at these and you can see how they were built to get an idea how you can build something similar yourself. But there's also 3 different tutorials on the Omniverse documentation page that helps you get started. And that's where I've gotten started with Action Graph. And it's a great pushing off point for seeing how Action Graph can just create something that works really well, starting off very small.
That's a great segue actually to the next thing that I wanted us to talk about, which is documentation and tutorials. And now we could dive into the Learn tab, which I was waiting for. This is such an important tab, and I'm always surprised that a lot of users either don't notice it or they just never use it. But it's such a valuable resource. And why is that, Vince?
Yeah, so Learn tab, and before we go through it, I also want to say that we are working on an even better solution than this. So we are working on a training and learning hub where this will be even better organized with search. Right, we've had a lot of people requesting features. This particular backend isn't great for it, but we're working on building that up. So that's something you'll see this year, hopefully in the early parts of this year. But for now, Learn is a great place to go get links to all the different resources that you have out there. It starts on the tutorial tab, but you'll see here we have live streams, we have documentation, we have our forums where you can go ask questions, we have our developer resource center. NVIDIA On Demand is actually the platform that all of these videos are on, and there's a Get Started. So actually the first time you run the launcher, you're going to end up on this Get Started page. I'm just going to bring it up here. Okay.
I think we're seeing the Learn launch.
Here we go. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So you would see this pop up inside the launcher. When you come to it a second time, it's outside of the launcher. But there's a little video that kind of explains the collaboration of the platform, how this platform works. So it's USD at the center. You know, our apps bring AI and path tracing and physics and materials, and then you connect your external apps. And then you have links here. There's a showroom app. One of the apps is called Showroom, and it's just these cool demos, these tech demos. So if you just got it, your RTX GPU, you wanna flex its muscle a little bit, you can go and load these. They're really good examples of things you can do. There's real-time fire and all sorts of cool stuff in the Showroom app. It's not really a learning tool. It's really just a cool screensaver demo thing. You can learn the basics here. This actually takes you to the video tutorials. You can connect your tools, with your connectors and set up your Nucleus. We have a link to the gallery, news. So there's a bunch of links in here. You'll get that the first time you go through. But the second time you come through, when you go into Learn, you'll get these tutorials, live streams. On the tutorials page, this top one is all of the tutorials. We're at 400 now. So we've done 400 videos. A lot of these are not really follow-along tutorials. They're more visual documentation, right? A lot of these videos are built to be embedded into the Doc Center. And we're working on getting more of those follow-along tutorials built. But this is where you can see all the latest stuff. So we have some recent live streams we've done, deep dive of our November releases. We have View 2022.3 that just released. There's an overview of it there. You'll see partner stuff. You'll see these banners at the top that identify it, if it's community stream, if it's kind of an overview of a tool, or if it's a workflow. And workflows are kind of really interesting. And because they're kind of different, we actually did break them out here. So you go into workflow tutorials. These are a series. So how to rig a lamp, how to do a realistic human portrait, the warehouse physics series. This is a great one that Dave Tyner worked on. And a lot of these are based off sample scenes that you have, so you can follow along with these. So workflows are great. And then if you're using a particular application, you'll want to go into these partner applications. And so if you're using ParaView, or if you're using Realusion or Houdini from Side Effects, this is an easy place to find all the videos we have around it. So that's if you like videos, you can go through here. Documentation is really critical as well. So if you go to the documentation center, and I would say this is probably one of the best places to go for connectors. I would go into these partner applications and look at the videos that are available for your connector. But also if you go into connectors here, browse, you'll have them here on the left. So if you're a Maya user, you can click on Maya. You can go through all of the information around the user interface, supported features, etc. This is really going to be helpful for anyone using these connectors to get started. And we also have a kind of a list version all of these playlists that you're seeing in here, these are actually links to all of those playlists as well. So if you don't want to poke through menus, you just want to see a full list, you can see them there. And then the other thing, and there's a lot of things in the documentation, but you can do an overview of the platform. Connectors, super important. USD, super important. I would say really good, get that grasp of that USD. Materials and rendering. You'll find all the different app documentations here. We also have some workflows down here. If you click on Omniverse Workflows, this is where we're starting to put some of those more follow-along tutorials. There's some extension workflows, learn to build extensions. There's a few of them in here. As well as for simulation, we have that the warehouse physics. So those same videos you saw there, we have here with a little bit more meat around the bones.
It's also very easy to search through stuff. So you can use the search bar to look for a term or an app, and it should come up. That being said, if you find anything that's missing or something, why is this, or an example that would have been really helpful to a certain part of the documentation, that would be a great thing to share with us. And you could email me directly, edmar@nvidia.com, or you could just go to our forums and post there, or our Discord server. We'll talk about Discord in a minute, but definitely want your feedback. And the documentation, the team has been putting a lot more focus on the past year as we left beta. It's still got ways to go, but it's definitely in some much more solid shape than it was before. I think the big missing thing I hear a lot is that people wish we had more examples. So we heard that loud and clear, and that those are coming. Okay, so this is great, and I definitely just a second of the tutorials. I think in the community, that's one of my go-to things for helping people. I think the tutorials and the playlists. So if you're an animator, we have a playlist on animation. If you're coming from and using the Unreal Engine, great Unreal Engine, we have a playlist just for epic kind of content. Digital Humans, as Vince is showing there. So lots of great resources there that really make it easy. But there's also something outside of this stuff which is kind of saved here, and something much more like timely, which is our series of live streams we're doing. Obviously, you're watching one right now, so we do them. But we also do several. One person in this room actually is striving to do 3 live streams a week. His name is none other than Omnivore, Dave Tyner. I'm talking about you, obviously. So we have, in addition to all the documentation, the playlist, the videos, all the stuff that Vince has showed you that's available through the launcher, we have a lot of live events that happen. And these are great opportunities for people to talk, just like people are asking in the chat, and Wendy's keeping up with a lot of these questions with Maddie. It's a great opportunity for you to come in and learn in real time with one of the developers from the team. And we have a few of them here with us. We have Eric and Ashley and Maddie and Tyner. So I would love it if each of you guys, and there's the calendar that's put up. So if you're, we'll post a link in a second to our add event calendar, so you can see everything coming up in terms of events, including live streams. You can add it to your own calendar very easily just by clicking on something. And then we also have a good feature on our Discord server to tell you when events are coming up. On our Discord, it's very easy to remember. It's just discord.gg/NVIDIA Omniverse. How easy is that? And then on the upper left, you have an area for events, and that's where you can also see. All right, so let's start with Tyner, since I just mentioned your series. So each one of you guys are doing something different. What's your live stream focused on? And why would people? Who should watch it? Everybody, of course, but who should really watch it?
People who enjoy entertainment, I would say, should watch it. But I want to say, I think Ashley's doing 3 a week too, right, Ashley? Or she's trying.
Not quite. I'm only doing 2.
Okay.
I'm not as ambitious.
Yeah. I like to bite off more than I can chew, for sure. So what we're doing is my consistent live stream is Friday. I'm trying to get others in during the week, showing the progress up to Friday. But the Friday live stream is we're constructing an animated sequence currently. And then we're going to have guest directors come in, and those directors are going to make changes. And we're going to capture those changes in USD and then use a USD workflow to really keep everything in USD, so that when we make a change in the review session that we do on Fridays, we can take that layer, drop it into the stage that needs to be changed. All the changes show up that need to happen. We make the changes, and then we move on with the scene. And we're just trying to touch on that media and entertainment review process workflow, because we think doing it all in 3D could help. And of course, it's all collaborative. And I have my good friend Alberto Arenas from Spain, formerly Skydance, currently with a company that maybe I shouldn't mention. But anyway, he's joining me. And then I also have Marcom 3D from Australia joining. And then I'm going to have some local United States NVIDIAns joining. So should be fun. Or a complete train wreck.
It is fun. It is fun. I was on the list one on Friday, just watching from as a viewer. A lot of fun. And then again, it's such a great place to post your question. Tyner will select your question, post it up on the screen, so everybody can see. But it's a great way to watch in real time how a creator is leveraging the different tools and also collaborating. And in terms of, so Tyner, I would say you're just focused on the creator side of things, making really cool looking stuff.
Creator workflow.
Creator workflow.
I really want to show the workflow and how you assemble these USD pieces, these USD Lego bricks into a full piece.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's kind of an important thing. There's no right way or wrong way to kind of do it. It depends on the project. It depends on where you need the flexibility. It depends on what you're going to be iterating on. And so watching Dave's live streams, you get all these great nuggets of tips and tricks on like, oh, I'm going to do a layer like this, and I'm going to do this one in here, and I'm going to link this in, and rather than do it this way because I want to maintain flexibility this way or that way. And so it is a large learning process to figure out how to organize and structure things, and it's really the best way to learn is to look at different use cases like Dave goes through.
And speaking of fun and watching and learning at the same time, I think Ashley, your live streams are also amazing. You have a nice group of hardcore fans that are watching every time because you really show all the whole process of you or yourself learning some of this stuff in real time, and how you go about figuring stuff out, and you'll switch screens and look at documentation and try to. So I think that is really helpful for any person starting with the platform. So what would you say the focus of your series is, and when can people watch them?
So right now I'm focusing on like creating a game dev workflow, seeing how I can connect Unreal Engine, Substance Painter, maybe Maya and Houdini to create to use Omniverse to accelerate game development. And I've recently upped my streams to twice a week. So now I am Mondays and Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 10 a.m. Pacific Time. And I am streaming both on Discord and on Twitch. And mine is really about like, I haven't done this before, and I probably only touched it a little bit before the stream, so everything's kind of new to me. I'm looking at YouTube, I'm looking at the documentation, and I'm also encouraging people in the chat to help me out. And today I was trying to connect the live session server for Unreal Engine 5. I was just breaking things left and right, and it was so fun because the chat was like, I was being hard on myself, and they're trying to like uplift me, but also help me at the same time, but also be like, hey, you're learning, and trying to let me figure it out. So it reminded me of being a middle school teacher again, and it was really fun. And so I'm going to start doing that this upcoming Monday twice a week.
That's awesome. I did paste the link to the calendar on the chat for both Twitch and YouTube. We also have another great developer on the community team, Maddie, who is also doing. You're doing a couple of different streams, actually, right?
Yeah.
You want to kind of go over them?
Yeah. So on Tuesday, so my streams are for people that don't like entertainment and don't like fun. No, it's I have a more of an acquired taste of what is fun, maybe. My Tuesdays are for developers. It's Code with Me. I'm doing like a live coding tutorial. You'll see me working on a project, and then you can ask me questions about what I'm doing and see how I mess up, and then see how I fix it and all that. So I think it's a good just life in the day of a programmer, and see how am I going about reasoning through these problems and then finding the answers that I need. Right now, I'm taking a page from from Ashley's playbook, and I'm doing more of a learn with me. There's a new extension in Isaac Sim about for simulating humans, and so I've been digging into that of animating humans and using nav meshes to navigate an environment. And so that is something that is brand new, and it's an opportunity for developers to come in and build more tools on top of that to build workflows for creators and other people that may want to run simulations. So that's Tuesdays. And then Fridays, I do developer office hour, which is people are building on Omniverse now. They may have questions. They may want some help. It's kind of like kind of a school office hour. Come bring your questions. Come bring the things that you're working on, and we can look at them together and see what's going on.
I've honestly had so much great feedback from the community about how helpful your streams are, answering questions from developers. So thank you for doing those. I think it's a super valuable resource to anyone who wants to dive into developing on the platform. So take full advantage of it out there. And then last, but definitely not least, Eric. So Eric and I kind of got to know each other even before he joined the NVIDIA team. I was other people in the community will probably recognize his name, Strainflow, from the community, always putting together great stuff. But I got to tell you, your streams are also outstanding because you are actually getting into the trenches with companies and partners that are actually leveraging Omniverse, and you're interviewing like the president and the CEO. You're doing walkthroughs of well, I don't know. So why don't you tell everybody what your streams are about?
Yeah, so I would say that my streams are more on the technical side. It's engineering design in Omniverse, and so on most of the streams, we're working on engineering design projects, and my goal is to help my viewers build a business writing extensions and providing services for engineering companies. And so then when I can, I'm actually inviting engineering businesses to be guests on the show. So sometimes, like we had Sierra Cars on the show, and we talked to them about what they're doing, and I want to help my viewers see maybe what the needs of the engineering community are. And then tomorrow, actually, my streams are every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And tomorrow we have a company, Preview 3D, as guests. And they are NVIDIA Inception members. So they are a startup themselves. And they were doing fine by all accounts. But working with NVIDIA, they've added a USD export to their software suite. And that has really helped them grow as a business because as Inception members, we work with them and have been able to introduce them to some of our partners who use Omniverse now that they're integrated into the Omniverse ecosystem. And so we're going to have them on. We're going to talk about what their software does. We're going to talk about their business. We're going to talk about how they're working with NVIDIA Inception, how they're working with Omniverse. And like I said, my goal, the overarching goal of my stream is to help my viewers build a business out of Omniverse. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I didn't even get to tell you this. I'll tell you now in front of everybody. Next week on our stream, on this time next week, we're going to have Predator Cycles. So they are using Omniverse to actually design and manufacture their bicycles. So I think their frames and everything. So we're going to be hanging out with one of the co-owners. And Eric, so if you're free, come on. I think it'll be great to have you here.
I would love to be there. I'll be there for sure. Yeah.
I'll let my son skip school that day and join the stream because he BMXs. So
yeah, awesome.
Nice.
I'm
just kidding. I can't skip school. How dare you?
So I love riding.
So, hearing so I hope everybody out there kind of can see where we're going with this. So we are here to help all the users and developers make full advantage and help you in your work and in your businesses. We want you to be super successful. Your success is our success. So we would like to always hear back from you on the kind of stuff that we need to do more of. And as you can see, we have a nice wide variety of great talented people here helping. And I did want to spend a few minutes on if you do need more help, right? So we mentioned obviously you can come to our live streams. We have the queen of stream here with us right now, Wendy. She manages the Omniverse forums. And I think the best way to describe the forums is that's where you want to go if you're having a bug, a kind of a critical issue you need help with. It's totally free. And what else would you say to people who should use the forums? Why?
So forum, if you have a feature that you want to see in Omniverse, post it there. If you, of course, as Edmore said, if you have an issue that you're running into, post it there. Also, extensions. Do you have an extension that you want to see? Or do you have an idea for an extension? Right there would be a great place to put all of that stuff. The forum is great because it's documented. So there's a paper trail that follows every post. And it's almost direct communication to the dev team. So that's really where you want to go for those things. If, and I know Edmar manages the Discord server, but if you need, a little hand holding or, a little extra help, Discord server is where you absolutely need to go. And I will say this, sometimes questions are dependent on what you're doing or what project you're working on. And that's where you really want to go to Discord and say, hey, I'm trying to do this. We have thousands of members, developers, people that are in, the same industry or maybe trying to do the same thing you are. And, it's, our community is great. Even if you're brand new, pop in there, put your new question on, you'll have a bunch of people just saying, hi, welcome to the family. It's awesome. We have a great community.
If you're not a Discord user, I wasn't a Discord user. I installed it. It's easy to use. Don't be afraid of it. You don't have to have an emoji or some. There's corporate users out there that's like, that's for gamers. I'm not doing that. Yeah,
I think Discord is a great place to kind of meet other people in the community, just like when you were saying it, and more importantly, get help from them. I'm always shocked about the amount of time that other users will spend helping other users just because to help them along, and it's so awesome. We Wendy and I are just incredibly lucky to have the kind of users and in our community that we do. It's just very helpful.
And a lot of the development team even goes in our Discord as well, right?
Of course, When Wendy and I just kind of make sure things don't go too far off the rails, but the real people, the real stars of the show on the forums and on Discord are actually the NVIDIA developers that take time out of their day to go in there and help questions. That being said, so just to put things in perspective, again, forums for official stuff, because like Wendy said, we can track stuff there, right? We can have it in our ticket system and things like that. Discord more if you're looking for support from other members of the community. Yes, developers will hang out there and answer questions, but we don't have any way to track that stuff. People are doing that, as much as they can, but forums is where kind of everything needs to go. If it's critical, go to the forums.
Absolutely, and ping me if you need me to jump on something.
And there's also so Eric mentioned this. I think Eric, you mentioned it. Yes, you did. Inception. So we also have other forms of support beyond the stuff we just mentioned in the stream. And probably the best place to go if you're a startup is to check out NVIDIA Inception. I have never heard anything from anybody bad from Inception. Everybody's experience from Inception is very, very glowingly positive because it's free support and resources for your startup. And if you're leveraging NVIDIA technology, and especially Omniverse now, we have a full team of people, a very large team of people that are helping enable you and take full advantage of our stack to help you in every way, shape, form. And it's just great. So if you're involved in a startup, I always recommend go check out the NVIDIA Inception. So that's a great.
Can I just say a little thing about Inception real quick?
Absolutely.
I'll just say that the great thing about Inception is when you get into that system, they're going to look at you and what your business does, and they're going to look at all of our other partners, and if you're close to meeting the need of one of our partners, they're going to go to you and say, hey, if you make this tweak to your business, then you're going to support the need of one of our partners that's unmet. And it's like, I can't tell you that's
powerful.
That's so powerful. And they do that. That's what they do. They're trying to help partners have their needs their needs met. And so, I mean, that's what happened in Preview 3D is their software was like just a millimeter from meeting the needs of a few of our partners. And so they told them, hey, if you do this, you'll meet the needs of some more partners. And they did it. And now more business. It's like,
that's awesome. That's a great testimonial. And that's also Chris Scott just jumped in on the chat. Chris Scott is one of our ambassadors. And I was going to mention that in a second also. So great timing, Chris. Another resource for support is actually our Omniverse Ambassadors. So these are people in the community and somewhere in the world that they're an expert in one or more areas of Omniverse. And we usually feature them in our Meet the Omnivore blog. So we'll post a link for that in a second, and you can read about how they're leveraging Omniverse and their workshops or their trainings or their speaking engagements. A couple of them worked on that project we mentioned about CES. That's also a great opportunity, not only to learn, but also if you feel like you are a candidate for an ambassador, you should reach out to us because we love to help. And along the lines of what Eric just said, we've seen great success from our ambassadors being able to be paired up with other clients who need that expertise. And also the ambassadors, we've seen ambassadors collaborate with each other and help their own businesses grow, or even actually in Chris's case, he's joined with a couple other people too. So really exciting stuff. So there's lots of great opportunities for those who are further down the road.
Additionally to all the free support we just all mentioned, there's also enterprise support. So if you are an enterprise customer and you need your 24-hour quick response, we do have enterprise support, which is why you would get the enterprise license of Omniverse with the Nucleus and all the stuff that goes with that as well. But
did we talk about Insider program?
Yeah,
absolutely. So I've had even just to finish on the support side. The live streams, it's amazing. Like, I don't know any other tech company that I can any week log in and ask my question to a live human being for free online. Like, that's just, I haven't seen that before. So I again, thank you to all of our live streamers to having these channels and really kind of interfacing with everyone every week.
Absolutely.
Insiders.
One of the great things you can do to help kind of get to know us both better, like we get to know you better, you get to know us better, is to actually fill out your insider application. And it exists on the community page. So if you go to omniverse.nvidia.com and go to community at the top, you'll see a link for overview, and right at the top of the overview is a link for the insider application. And what that is it basically is a questionnaire that kind of asks what your background is, what your familiarity is with Omniverse, which apps are you most comfortable using? Are you looking to be introduced to other people who might need consulting help? So if you're open to contract work, it really allows us to get to know our users much better. And probably more importantly too, we get to see like, hey, we see a lot of people coming in from this background using these apps. So maybe we need to work on more documentation and tutorials there. Or if we have somebody who's like, hey, we really need to find somebody who's really good at machinima to make us a commercial for something. And we could say, hey, look, we've got these, these people who filled out the insider program form, and they're machinima pros. So it's a great way to get to know us and us to know you better. So please do that, and that also lets us kind of go through those lists, and we get to see who we should really highlight. People doing amazing work, and you can share that with us. Then we can highlight you in a Meet the Omnivore blog or in a live stream.
And inviting people to pre-releases of things too. We'll do a new extension coming out. For instance, when we put out Houdini. Like, who do we know uses Houdini? I mean, we can ask in Discord, but having filled out your insider profile, we can go through and say, okay, let's find Houdini beginners and do a focus group with them and see how they like this connector. And let's also do a focus group with the experts. Let's go ahead and bring them in with our engineering team and see if there's anything missing that they would like to see. So really think of it as a profile and you can actually go multiple times. You can go in it, fill out some stuff, hit complete. You can go back to the site. It'll save it and go and add more details and hit complete again. So by having that profile, then you can engage with us and we can engage with you and find you and pull you into our development or pull you into our community events. And it's a really great way to be more involved with Omniverse if you're interested.
And once you start working more with Omniverse, if you have work you want to show off, the other great way to get our attention and the world's attention is to submit your work to the Omniverse Gallery Page, which is very easy to search for Omniverse Gallery. It'll come right up. You can upload your render, whether it's a still or a film, and let us know what apps you used, and that way we can share that with the world. And also lets us get in touch with you to see how we can help you in your work. So that's the gallery page. If you ever want to just share works in progress, you can always use, we have a showcase channel on our Discord server where you can show stuff off and get feedback from other users. But again, I think the general kind of overarching theme here is that we want to be able to help the users as much as possible. So take full advantage of all the stuff we went over in today's stream. There's one other thing I wanted to mention that we do twice a year, 3 initials. It's called GTC. The next one is actually, I think the registration just opened up. That's the other great place to get knowledge. There are lots of presentations. There are workshops. There's a great keynote, obviously. So that happens typically in March, and so it's happening this March, and also I think the fall one is in September. Is that right? September, I'm pretty sure.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
I'm there. Who knows? It's
in there. So we have a spring. We have one in the spring, one in the fall. But GTC is great, and it's 100% free unless you're doing one of the really hands-on workshops that are limited in space and more one-to-one. But 90% of the content is 100% free. It's a great way to not only ask your questions. Many of the sessions have a Q&A component to it. You also do not have to watch the stuff live. If you register for GTC, you'll have access to that stuff like immediately afterwards. And then it opens up to everybody else down the road. So just there's no harm in registering. It also lets NVIDIA kind of know more about the users who are interested in the ecosystem. We went over a lot of things. Oh, go ahead, Vince.
Oh, yeah.
Look out for our user group also.
Yes.
Right? Whenever there's a
yeah,
GTC, we do our big user group. It's a 2 to 12-hour show.
Right.
We try to keep it to 1, but it always creeps a little bit. And so at every GTC, we'll do our user group where we'll have Rev and Frank and Richard, come in and talk about what's new in Omniverse since the last show, what we've just announced. We'll have customers come in. We'll have community members come in and show some of the cool stuff they've been doing. It's a really good way to get a full download on what's new on Omniverse. So look out for our user groups at these GTCs, and then usually before a GTC, we'll do a little live stream to kind of point you guys towards some of the cool stuff that's going to be coming out. So look out for those 2 things.
Yes, and in addition to GTC, we're also heavily involved in SIGGRAPH, presenting papers there. So you can always get some great content from the NVIDIA team and Omniverse team at SIGGRAPH as well. So basically, we would like to hear your comments and anything you think we need to do more of. But as you can see, we're here for you. Check out some of the links we posted in the chat. I'm going to hang out in the community room number 1 after the stream. So if anyone wants to come and ask any questions, 1-to-1, we didn't get to answer you in the chat, we'll come out there. But I think that's a pretty good. There's one thing I want to mention. This is probably up Maddie's alley. So Maddie, or maybe Ashley. So one thing I do hear a lot from people when developers, advice from veteran developers who have created extensions, they said one of the most helpful things to them is actually digging into the code a little bit, right? So for developers out there, how would you explain kind of that to them?
Yeah. So what I would do if I were to start out today is I would install Omniverse Code, which is the IDE for developers. Then I would there's a how to build an extension in 10 minutes video on YouTube. I'd watch that. And then from Omniverse Code, there's documentation within the app, and also from that extension manager window that Vince showed, you can access the source code for any extension that you're interested in. So if you want to learn how an extension was built, you can look it up in the extension manager, and there's a little VS Code icon or a folder icon, and you can pick either of those to get to the source code. Most of the code is in Python, so you can read the source.
That's awesome. Yeah, I heard that many times. I wanted to make sure we pointed that out. Ashley, do we leave anything out from your perspective? Any tips and tricks that you want to part with?
No, not really. I think we covered most of it. We got the documentation, YouTube, like all of the artists that I worked with in CES all have their own YouTube videos on different things they've done in Omniverse, little tutorials on how they connected either Houdini, Unreal Engine. JS Films has a great one with connecting Unreal Engine 5. I love Edward's Houdini tutorial that he does for Omniverse. Like all of those, I'm watching them because that's how I'm learning. And so definitely want to be able to you want to go and see those for sure if you're struggling or you want to see how easy it is to get started. They're short videos. They're like 11 minutes long. I think the longest one is.
That's great advice. Well, I think we went a little over, but it was worth it, and we wanted to make sure we covered everything possible. I'm sure we left something out, but hopefully we can touch it on the community voice room in a second. I want to send a big thank you. Tyner and Eric had to go because they had other meetings, so thank you to those guys. Thank you so much, Ashley, Maddie, for doing all your awesome content every week, answering questions from the community on our forums and on Discord. But most of all, I would like to thank the community for diving into Omniverse. And just know that we are very interested in your success, and please let us know how we can help you. Obviously, a big thanks to Vince Brisebois for coming on and going over everything and giving a nice overview of USD and the Nucleus. It's always awesome when we can have Vince here on the stream, and we get to see a little bit of a sneak peek at his awesome rigs in the background.
I'll have to do a show on that thing.
We should actually. We should do a hardware show. I think that'd be a lot of fun to do a breakdown video.
Wendy's got competition. We have to see whose is better. We need
who has more RGB going on.
Wendy's got a pretty impressive Threadripper.
All of this up here is RGB, and it's all connected to the GPU temperature. So yeah.
That is okay. That's definitely a live stream right there.
Red, I need to launch Omniverse and a very complex.
Do you have cool hair, Vince? Like we got unicorn hair.
True.
Wendy wins.
I will never win that battle.
RGB hair, right? And it's connected to her hairstylist.
That's what I need. RGB LEDs in my hair.
Coming.
Well, thanks again, everybody, and also a big thank you to some community members that we kind of alluded to earlier that are super helpful. Zia Ideas is always in there helping. Papa Chuck, super helpful to folks. There's really a bunch of people. Matt Schwartz from New Jersey Institute of Technology, super helpful. We just have such a great community. So get to know some of these folks by coming on our Discord, and you could be part of the community. So thank you. Hope this was helpful to everybody. We will see you next week on the official stream on Wednesday, but there are more streams later this week if you go to the event calendar with others. But next week we're with Predator Cycles, and we're going to be looking at how they use Omniverse for their design and manufacturing process for their bikes. So until then, we'll see you on Discord. I'm going to head over there right now if anyone wants to come chat.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.